When you think of Japan in the old days, one of the first things that come to mind are the samurai. The warriors who served their daimyo or regional lords and landowners, fighting for honour, glory, or to protect while practicing and enforcing the moral code of the Bushido, or Way of the Warrior. The samurai are also the main focus for today's review with Way of the Samurai, the first of several titles in the series where you play the role of a ronin, or a samurai without a master, who becomes the pivotal figure of the conflict in the area they arrive in. While this game did get a port to the PlayStation Portable, though in Japanese only, an English patch for the game exists, though I will be focusing on the original PlayStation 2 release for this review. As I mentioned earlier, you play the role of a ronin in Way of the Samurai. You can choose a name for your character and customise basic appearances with more faces and outfits being available in future playthroughs, with some being pretty wacky. You mainly play as a male character, though a female model, the game's sensei or teacher who guides you through the tutorial, is unlockable through a code after completing a certain requirement. Despite that, your character is still treated as a male for story purposes. The game is set in the year 1878, the age of the samurai is all but over, the Tokugawa shogunate, which began with that Tokugawa Ieyasu guy I talked about in the Samurai Warriors 5 review, had fallen out of power, and Japan had started to change from the isolated country it was under the Tokugawa shogunate to a more modern and industrialized society under the rule of Emperor Meiji during what was now called the Meiji era. There's a bit more to this, but that's a story for another time. Your ronin wanders into the fictional outpost of Rokotsu Pass, which is in the middle of a three-way power struggle, with the peasants inhabiting the area caught in the middle, and your actions and choices will determine the fate of those in the pass. But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. I like the amount of freedom this game gives you. Although you can say it's dated against today's standards, Way of the Samurai, once you make your character, will just dump them at the bridge leading to the pass and not give you any indication on who to talk to, where to go, or what to do. What you do from that point on is all up to you, and not knowing what consequences your actions have is what makes the game so exciting. You can choose to join one of the factions, help the peasants, be a neutral party, or just leave the pass and not get involved at all. The factions you have to choose from involve the Kuro family, the ruling landowners who extort, intimidate and kill people to retain their influence. The family are running a little short on funds, and Teshin Kuro, the head of the family, intends to sell their iron foundry to the government despite resisting them from taking over the pass. Given the fact the government have guns and cannons, you can probably tell that this isn't really a smart idea. The other faction is the Akadama clan led by Kicho. Kicho is the illegitimate son of Teshin and seeks to stop the government from taking over the pass by force and sabotage the foundry deal. Caught up in between is Suzu, a restaurant worker, Kurikichi, the owner of the restaurant who took Suzu in, Don Donatilaus, or Donna for short, a samurai with a sick afro with a crush on Suzu, and Gunji Dojima, the blacksmith. The two factions have their own unique characters, and you can run into them, side with them, fight them, or kill them depending on the circumstances. I really like how the game just throws you into it and expects you to figure out what you want to do yourself. It also heavily encourages replayability with you going around and seeing what events happen when, and what characters are doing throughout your time at Rokotsu Pass. The gameplay is also something I liked about the game. While you play as a samurai, you don't begin with many moves or techniques of one. Your character can learn or create moves as they fight, and the type of weapons they hold or can pick up have different styles, which determines the type of moves you can perform. The weapons all have statuses that you can improve on as well, and there are two ways to do that. Firstly, you can take the weapon to the blacksmith Dojima, who can upgrade the durability, attack and defense of a weapon for money. Money can be obtained by doing jobs for the Kuro family, killing enemies, or certain events. When upgrading attack or defense, the opposite stat has the chance to go down, so increasing attack may lower defense and vice versa. However, Dojima is the only way to repair the durability of a weapon, so I wouldn't recommend you go killing him. A weapon can lose durability if certain attacks are used or blocked, and the damage they do to the durability bar goes past the amount of durability you have available. Thankfully, this bar does go down fairly quickly as long as you don't attack, so you can use the time to reposition yourself. Attack, defense and the sword's life can also be increased by certain items an enemy can drop. Life is a little confusing as it's not the sword's durability, but in fact your character's health that it somehow improves. Certain enemies also carry unique weapons, and the weapons that you pick up sometimes have random stats assigned already, some which are even in the negative, so it's a hindrance to wield them. though by using and upgrading them, you can negate that. You can only carry up to 3 weapons at a time, and you can pay Dojima to transport your weapon to make it available in another playthrough. And believe me, you'll be playing through the game quite a lot if you intend to unlock everything, as the only time a weapon will carry over is if you successfully get one of the 6 endings the game has, or leave the pass. If you're killed, you'll lose the weapons that you had on you at the time of death. Outside of the story, the game also has a duel mode where you can pick one of the characters in the game and a weapon, and then fight the AI or another player with certain conditions, unlocking more characters. But there's more to the game than its good aspects, so let's look at what didn't work so well in the bad. The game's endings I felt could have been expanded on a little more and maybe have some more variety. As I mentioned earlier, the game has 6 endings. However, without spoiling too much, 5 of them ultimately lead to the same result, with 2 of those 5 being minor variations of each other, another 2 being variations of each other, and 1 being slightly expanded. The leftover ending does require a bit of work, and getting it is almost identical to one of the other endings, but at least it has a satisfying conclusion. I also wouldn't mind seeing how the battle between the Kuro family and the Akudama clan would have gone if I'd left the pass after offering to help, or having killed some of them. Would have been interesting to see how the innocents caught up in the middle of the conflict ended up too. I also found that the camera and controls can work against you in the game as well. The game does have a semi-free camera, and sometimes when the camera changes location, it also changes your directional controls as well. Sometimes you even have to fight the camera in order to see what you're doing or to judge the distance between you and the enemy. A certain section of the game is pretty focused on stealth, and the camera at certain points of the area you're in will put you at a disadvantage since you can't freely see what is around and will get spotted by the enemy as a result. Regarding the controls, when you're in battle you're locked onto one enemy. If you're low on health and need to heal, or if you want to pick up something, you have to hold the R2 button to move freely, and even then it's a matter of positioning yourself to kick up food, items or swords. If you're not positioned right, you'll lock back onto the enemy and kick nothing, giving them an opportunity to attack you. You also can't guarantee that you'll be healed when you kick food. One of the most common food items to find are mushrooms, and they'll either randomly heal you or hurt you. Thankfully, they are the only food items in the game that do this. You can even accidentally move into another area while fighting thanks to the camera. I sort of wish that there was a prompt or something appearing on screen to show that you're about to move to another area to help me move far enough back so I don't change areas, as doing so will make dropped items disappear. This is most common in the bridge area, as the stream flowing under the bridge leads to the foundry and you'll find enemies at night fighting one another down there. That about does it for the bad, so I think it's time for the opinion. Way of the Samurai makes for an interesting game to kill a day with, if you excuse the pun. Being given the freedom to help, hurt or kill over the course of a 2 to 3 day period, while the story continues in the background, and the sword mechanics makes replaying the game fun to see what different outcomes you get. The events like fighting off 100 men at the foundry or delivering a baby to safety while under attack and not wanting trouble I enjoyed. The game's endings I feel should have been expanded on a bit more, or even made more unique, and sometimes you're fighting against the camera and controls, but overall Way of the Samurai has been fun to play. If you're into samurai games or just want to try something a bit different in the way of action adventure or action role-playing, then this game is one to consider. Though you could have a scenario beaten in about an hour, replaying the game to see what you can pick up or what you can change makes it all the more interesting. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Way of the Samurai Donna Donna out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.